Good afternoon. Magic.
All right, so which one did you steal?
Didn't. Thank you. So, it is Tuesday, February the 7th, and I'm calling the Committee on State and Local Government and Veterans to order. A quorum is present. Today we're going to have a number of brief 10-minute overviews on areas of policy and the work that people are doing that will be before or have influence on the committee's jurisdiction. We'll also be doing one bill. We have testifiers from out of town today, and so I'd like to invite the folks from the Center for Rural Policy and Development up for their 10-minute overview here at the beginning because they are from outside of the metro area. We're really grateful that you're here. So please join us, introduce yourselves, and commence with your testimony. I've invited the center to come and share the work that they do so that we know and are able to take a good advantage of the policy and research work that they are doing as we shape public policy going forward. Welcome to the committee. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is Julie Tesh, and I'm President and CEO of the Center for Rural Policy and Development, and I live in southern Waseca County, very rural, and very proud of that. And with me today is Kelly Ash, who's our Senior Research Associate, and he comes from New London. Before we get into the research, I just want to give you a quick overview, maybe, of, there we go. Technology. Just to give you a quick overview of who we are, the Center for Rural Policy and Development was actually started by state statute in 1997. And our whole purpose is to do research, nonpartisan research on rural Minnesota issues that affect policy. We stand by that nonpartisan way very strictly. We walk a fine line. We're also a nonprofit, and so we do policy research that is used in your decision making, whether it's at the state level, the county level, or the city level. And so we like to take, when we started, we were originally more of a white paper research organization, but over time, we have morphed into more of an organization that does just-in-time research. So more timely research. So one thing I'll mention today is you should be receiving a postcard in front of you. So the State of Rural, the report that we're going to be talking about today, you can just use your QR code here to put the State of Rural up there. So we try to make all of our reports very easily accessible by whether it's webinars, Twitter, blogs, podcasts, whatnot. And then something I want to ask all of you ahead of time for you to think about once Kelly gets started is, what is your rural? What does rural Minnesota mean to you, and defining rural? I know for myself, my closest town is a town of 201. That's very rural. Depending upon where you live, when I lived in Washington, D.C., I can tell you that a lot of people there thought Minnesota is very rural. So it's about your perspective. So I want to leave you with that. What is your rural? And today we're going to be defining rural as using the 4 county groups developed by the Minnesota Demographic Center. So you can see that on the slide there. So we have entirely urban in the brown. The light brown is urban town rural mix. Town rural mix is light green, and then entirely rural is green. So you can see there in the entirely urban, you have Blue Earth County, which is Mankato. You have Rochester, you have Moorhead, and so just want to ask yourself, what is your rural? And from there, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly Ash.
Thank you, Chair Murphy, Senators. For the record, my name is Kelly Ash. I'm a senior researcher for the Center for Rural Policy and Development. I live and work out of New London, Minnesota, in northern Kandiyohi County, just north of Wilmer. Beautiful, lovely place. If you ever have a chance, come visit. So as Julie was talking about, we try to find that balance between rural and urban with the recognition that actually very few counties and very few areas of Minnesota are completely rural and completely urban. Most areas of Minnesota are somewhere in between. And a lot of times when you guys are presented research, I feel like a lot of times it's broken down to either planning regions, EDRs, or even 7-county metro versus all the other counties, right? And so we try to get around that. We present information a little differently. So I just want to draw your attention to this map because I'm going to be showing quite a few charts charts that break Minnesota down into these 4 categories. So just so you kind of have a mental image of what I'm talking about when I say entirely rural or town-rural mix and so on. So the state of rural is actually something we do annually. It's kind of a coming together of all the data that's been released over the last year, and we break it out and we kind of take a look at all the different demographic and economic characteristics occurring across Minnesota in these 4 categories with a lens and focus on kind of rural areas. Not necessarily entirely rural, but that spectrum of rurality that we see across Minnesota. And we're gonna start with people. So this is the first data set that has come out of the pandemic. And so we were all kind of sitting and waiting to see what the data says. It's always a kind of a bummer that it's always 1 to 2 years delayed. But this is a data set that we're now looking at. And it's pretty typical when I do the state of rural. We do it over a 2-week period, usually during holiday break. There's minor little tweaks because trends don't move quickly. They move pretty slow. That was not the case with this state of rural. We saw some major changes that occurred during the blip of the pandemic. And so it was rather interesting. It took a little more work, and we're going to look at some of those charts right now. The first one being there was a shift in migration, which translated into more rural counties experiencing population increases. So I got kind of maybe a bit of a confusing chart, but I just want to walk it through you here real quick. So we have our 4 county groups, right? Our entirely rural, town-rural mix, urban, town-rural mix, and entirely urban. Population change is dependent on 2 things: natural change, so you have more births than deaths, meaning you have population increase, or vice versa, you have more deaths than births, and so you have populations decline. So that's one impact or one driver of population change. The second one is migration. So you either have in-migration or a net out-migration. That's the other impact in terms of population change. So on the red bars here, you'll see, let's start with the entirely rural. You see that negative 189? So that was the annual natural change. So essentially from 2010 to 2019, annually, entirely rural counties had 189 more deaths than births. That got even worse during the 2020 and 2021, where it went down to 401 more deaths than births. Again, relation to the pandemic. And we actually saw this in every single county group, town-rural mix, significantly less. They had 1,200 more deaths than births, compared to actually having 1,200 more births than deaths the previous decade. Urban town-rural mix, significantly lower, and even entirely urban had significantly lower natural change. There's obviously some pretty good reasons for that. One, there were just flat out more deaths during the pandemic. And 2, there was just a lot less people having, getting pregnant and having more babies. Some of you, I don't know, maybe you've been shocked by that. We spent an awful lot of time as spouses together. I thought there would be a little bit more of a coming together, but maybe we got to know each other a little too well and it just didn't happen. I don't know. But the second thing to look at is migration change. So this is really interesting too. Again, I'm going to point your attention to entirely rural. Between 2010 and 2019, entirely rural counties lost 276 people a year. Between 2020 and 21, they gained 518 in net in-migration. Significant change. That's huge. We've never seen anything like this. There's really nowhere in within the last 2-3 decades to point at that this has occurred. And town-rural mix, something similar. They went from losing 1,000 to out-migration per year to gaining 2,600. Urban town-rural mix gained 5,500 versus gaining 205 annually, and entirely urban lost actually 18,000 between 20 and 21. I didn't include this slide, but if we were actually to take out the entirely urban counties that are outside of the 7-county metro, the loss was strictly in the 7-county metro. It did not include entirely urban areas outside of the 7-county metro. So that is a very, very interesting. And as you can see, it really changed the total population change. We went from having 500 annual loss in entirely rural areas to having 112 gain in those counties. And you could kind of see moving forward what that looks like for total population change. But anyways, this is really, really significant. Key to note, these yellow bars are not trends. It's a 1-year thing. We're going to be curious moving forward what that looks like. Will it kind of go back to where it was, or are we going to keep moving forward? But this is kind of what our rural areas felt. You probably heard it anecdotally. Seems like a lot more people are moving in. The housing market's kind of crazy. This kind of shows that, yeah, that was probably a pretty accurate statement. So if we look at then across the board, percent change in population since 2010, any shade of blue means they have a higher population in that county than they did in 2010. Anything towards the yellow and red means they have a less population in 2010. And as you can see, there's still plenty of yellow, orange, and red throughout the county. But if I were to compare this to a map we did a couple years ago, there's significantly more shades of blue. Actually, 11 more counties have currently more population today than they did in 2010 compared to a couple years ago. So a lot of those counties have flipped and now have a higher population, which is kind of interesting. So there's one other thing that I think is worth mentioning. Counties with large BIPOC populations continue to grow in rural Minnesota and are projected to grow. This continues to be where we see significant differences. And why I think this is important is because one, I think rural areas can get painted as being entirely white or lacking in diversity. And I think that is true in a lot of cases across rural Minnesota, but we have very dense pockets of BIPOC and Latino populations across greater Minnesota or outside of the 7-county metro. I'll draw your attention to Nobles County, the city of Worthington, where over 50% of their population now is BIPOC or Latino. Candy, Ojai, where I live, significant population, we're talking 20, 25, 30%. And these are also the counties that currently are experiencing population growth, and also the counties that are projected to continue to experience population growth are these counties, while a lot of other counties are projected to start losing population largely due to age. People are just gonna start passing away. That's a really bad way to say it, but I'm a researcher, I don't have a lot of humanity, so. The other key thing I'll say is that one thing that kind of gets overlooked when we're looking at rural areas is this changing cohorts. We talk about the brain drain a lot, these loss of 18 to 29-year-olds, and that is a thing, absolutely. What we don't talk about is the typical in-migration of 30 to 49-year-olds we see in our rural counties. Now, that in-migration doesn't always make up for the loss of 18 to 29-year-olds. We do see that in-migration, and this is gonna play, I want you just to kind of think about this, because this is going to play into a slide I'm going to present here just in a little bit in terms of, you know, we have 30 to 49-year-olds moving into our rural counties and we're not even trying. We're so focused on losing our 18 to 20-year-olds. What if we actually focused on recruiting and retaining our 30 to 49-year-olds? What does that look like in terms of economic development? It's kind of a whole different set of strategies, and I'll talk about that in just a second.
And Mr. Ash, I always hate this because when I invite somebody to come to dinner, you know, then I don't want to say, let's eat fast. But if you can, we'll have to wrap up pretty soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm going to skip ahead to a couple major pieces that I think is largely most important to particularly what you're probably going to hear about from the Association of Minnesota Counties, League of Minnesota Cities, or at least give you some context of what they're hearing on the ground. The job vacancy rates is higher in greater Minnesota. Job vacancy rates is the number of job vacancies as a percentage of the total jobs filled in our planning regions. So if you jump ahead, I'm sorry, I don't know what slide this is, but you can kind of see by the chart here. 3% job vacancy rate is what we consider to be pretty healthy, meaning you have enough jobs for opportunity in our areas, while at the same time having a labor pool to apply for those job vacancies. 3%. Not one of our planning regions is even close to that currently. The closest one is actually the 7-county metro at 7.8%. Every other region outside of the 7-county metro is way above that. Northeast is near 10% job vacancy rate. This is a significant deal. And it's like the main thing that a lot of economic development organizations and a lot of even, I would say, municipal governments and counties are thinking about, looking at and hearing from employers right now. And we did some research on this, looking at the data of job vacancies, and it was quite clear. The job vacancy rates are significantly higher and have been for a long time outside of the 7-county metro. The gap in wages has narrowed considerably because of this, because of the demand in labor, which is kind of interesting. Significantly larger number of job vacancies are full-time. Significantly larger number of job vacancies are offering health insurance benefits. And job requirements are used as a lever for the applicant pool, not necessarily looking at the type of skills needed for that job. And that's a clear thing that I just want to make sure. These aren't low skill, low income jobs. These are jobs available across all occupations. So there is actually a fundamental shift taking place in economic development amongst local EDAs, county EDAs, regional EDAs, from job recruitment to people recruitment. And this is a statewide issue, but we've been feeling this for a long time in greater Minnesota. The policy implications from this, and probably things that you folks are all hearing about from state and local governments, is this shift away from tax incentives and infrastructure investments. And you know, we're no longer concerned about putting an industrial park in. That's not where we're at anymore. We're really starting to talk a lot more about housing. What is government's role in childcare, visitor strategies, healthcare, current resident engagement, investments in natural amenities, and focus on quality of life issues, because that tends to be what's driving people to move to our areas. And so we're seeing and hearing a lot more about this stuff. And the tool set that's at our local government's disposal sometimes right now is not matching what is actually needed. We still have grants available to EDAs and local governments asking for how many jobs an initiative is going to create. That's not what we need right now. It's got to be about how many people is this going to bring, or how is this going to engage people so that they stay in our areas. So with that, I will say too, on all these people recruitment retention, we do have, like, each one of these is a 15-minute research presentation. We have research reports on each one of these: housing, childcare. We've done a lot of stuff on childcare, visitor strategy, healthcare, all of this stuff. If you are interested, please just email us. All this stuff is for free. We're doing it for you guys to give you a sense of what's happening in our rural areas. And here's just some upcoming research we do have coming out over the next 3 months. Just wanted to put that in front of you. And with that, Madam Chair, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And sorry, I'm long-winded.
I really appreciate you making time coming to the committee to share this information. I have found the work that the research the center has done invaluable in the way that I think about the work I do for the people of Minnesota. And I wanted to make sure that our members had a chance to see you, hear from you, and access to the information that you are generating for us. So I can't thank you enough for coming in. It's good to see you both.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions, members? All right. You're released. Thank you. We are going to take up next House File. We're going to take up next House File 4, which is Senator Zainab Mohammed's legislation dealing with driver's licenses for all. And I understand that she's in the room. I think I saw her come in. So I'd like to invite you up to the witness stand, the table, the presenting table. Welcome to the committee. Senator, I understand that you have a testifier. Is that accurate?
Dina is an expert who will answer questions.
I understand. Thank you very, very much. So, Senator Mohammed, welcome to the committee. I will move House File 4 before the committee. And for the committee members, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to take up this piece of legislation. It has had a lot of hearing, and we are focused on just the provisions that deal with a waiver in terms of the process of the driver's license itself. So our jurisdiction is very narrow. We're going to spend, about 40 minutes on this at the most. I plan to call for a vote at 1:30. If we need that much time, we'll use it. But I do want to be done by 1:30 because we do have a number of presentations that follow this. And as I said, this has been through a couple of very full hearings already in a couple of different areas of jurisdiction, and the jurisdiction before us today is narrow. So with that, the bill before the committee, House File 4, welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself and proceed.
Thank you, Chair Murphy and members of the committee. You should have in front of you a copy of House File 4 as amended. There are two provisions of this bill under the jurisdiction of this committee. The first is Article 1, Section 4, Subdivision 9, which states that the commissioner must establish a process to grant a waiver from the requirements under the subdivision and subdivisions of 9 and 10, or 10 and 11. The second is Article 1, Section 11, which repeals Minnesota Statute Section 171.15, Subdivision 7. Members, I appreciate you taking up this bill, and I look forward to answering some of your questions.
Thank you very much. Members, as I've indicated and the senator has just testified to, there are a couple of provisions in here that deal with a waiver process. And out of an abundance of wanting to be comprehensive in the work that we're doing, I decided it was important that we come before this committee. So with that, I see Senator Drazkowski has the first question. Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm wondering if the author can give us a full understanding of the bill, if she can describe the bill and its interrelations between the different sections or different articles in the bill and different sections in the bill, what they do, and this is a very important area of law. There's some security concerns I think that a lot of people have, and it would be good for us to understand what the bill is and what she hopes to accomplish with it.
Thank you, Senator Drazkowski. And I did ask Senator Mohammed to be brief in her remarks about the proposal. So it is good with me if, Senator Mohammed, you want to describe just in general what this proposal is about. And I'm going to continue to focus us on the areas of jurisdiction that are relevant to this committee. So, Senator Mohammed, if you wouldn't mind, just a brief overview on the proposal itself and the objective.
Chair Murphy, I absolutely can go over the bill, and then we can also potentially have maybe councils do some of the provisions, but I can go over it as much as I can with the time given to us. But this legislation is focused on improving public safety first and foremost. It will keep our roads safer in states that allow driver's licenses, regardless of people's statuses. Hit and runs have gone down. People have gotten insured. And what this bill does, it basically reinstates the law that we had prior to 2003. We had the same exact law in place, and everybody was able to go get a driver's license regardless of their status, as long as they go to the DMV. They take the written test, the driving test, and prior to that, of course, they go in, they show who they are, they prove that they live in Minnesota, and then they can go and take the written test, the driving test, get an insurance, and they can drive like everybody else. And the reason behind this is because prior to 2003, we had this issue, but it was revoked from people undemocratically by our former Governor Pawlenty. And so what we're trying to do is reinstate that. This bill was brought forth when it was getting revoked to our legislature, and we didn't want to take it away. The former legislature at that time said they didn't want to take it away. The governor did it undemocratically, but we have the opportunity to restore it. It'll keep our roads safe. People will get insurance, and also huge supporters of this is the Chamber, Minnesota Chamber. It's because people know that right now, no matter where you go, what committees we're in, we're hearing about the workforce shortages and the fact that we need more people in our workforce. And how can we do that? We need to allow people to drive, and we need to allow people to drive safely and legally, and this bill does that. And above anything, it's a moral issue. Our faith community supports it because people understand that people will drive, whether they have a license or not. We need to keep our roads safe. But outside of that, as far as the moral perspective, it's a moral issue because we're telling people that they should go to work, that they should pay taxes, they should do everything, but we're not giving them the opportunity to safely get home to their families, to be able to drive their kids to school, and this bill does that. So we're reinstating the bill from 2003, and we're putting it back into law.
Thank you, Senator Mohammed. And for the committees, just for your reference, this was heard in the Committee on Transportation. I believe it had two days of hearings, a lot of testimony, a lot of amendments. It was also heard in the Senate Judiciary and Public Safety Committee, where it had a full hearing and a vote. Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Senator Mohammed, so tell us, so you mentioned Governor Pawlenty did something undemocratic. Did we have non-compliant driver's licenses in law before?
Prior to 2003,
Senator Mohammed.
Chair Murphy, Senator Drazkowski, prior to 2003, everybody was allowed to get a driver's license, Class D driver's licenses, as long as they showed their residency and proof that they are who they are.
So, Madam Chair.
Senator Drazkowski.
So thank you, Madam Chair. So Senator Mohammed, I don't think that Governor Pawlenty had the authority to strike out law. So I don't believe that the law was changed. I would suspect you're suggesting maybe some administrative rule was adjusted or dispatched with at that time. Can you tell us what happened back then?
Senator Mohammed.
Chair Murphy, Senator Jaskowski.
And welcome to the committee, and please introduce yourself. And briefly, if you'd like to share with us the legislative history, although today we're about the work for our future. So if you could be brief, introduce yourself, and please proceed.
Yes. Thank you, Senator Murphy. My name is Vina Iyer. I am the Executive Director of the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota. Senator Jaskowski, in response to your question, in 2003, there was an administrative rule change that was made by the DPS under Governor Pawlenty in order to remove the ability of individuals who were not able to establish their lawful immigration status in the United States to be able to obtain a driver's license. That was an administrative rule change.
Senator Jaskowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was the answer I was looking for. I think we were led to believe the law was somehow changed by a governor, and I don't think that can happen. So thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator Mohammed and Ms.
Iyer.
Iyer. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, other questions or amendments?
Madam Chair.
Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Mohammed, in your the narrow of our jurisdiction here, it talks about the repealing of Section 11, which is on page 9. I'm just curious as to why you're trying to get rid of rules being made in regards to for the Public Safety Commissioner to not make rules and putting together this license for the individuals designated in the bill. If you could give me an answer on that, I'd appreciate it.
Senator Mohammed.
Chair Murphy, Senator Anderson, give me a moment.
That's been repealed is actually what denies the ability to make rules. So
Do you want to answer that? I'll let Vina answer that.
Hello. Senator Murphy, Senator Anderson, the section that is being repealed, what is in statute right now, is what denies DPS the rulemaking authority. So by repealing it, should they be granted rulemaking authority, they would get that rulemaking authority.
Madam Chair.
Senator Anderson.
Is it Ms. Iyer?
Yes, it is. So tire without a T.
Ms. Iyer, so as it states on the back of this, it says rulemaking limitation, notwithstanding any law of the contrary, the commissioner is prohibited from adopting any final rule that amends or conflicts with the Minnesota rules 7410.010. They cannot make rules right now? Is that what you're saying?
Ms. Iyer.
Senator Murphy, Senator Anderson, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Are there further questions or are there amendments, members? Senator Coran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In relation to the rules, I think in one case, the implementation of the proposed language creates broad implementation rules for this particular bill, which I think covers almost all 4 areas of rulemaking, probably the most broad rulemaking we've seen in any bill. In one case, we retract their ability to be responsive to things that may change in any environment or as time moves on. The 2003 was driven by an incident. And so I'm concerned about this broad rulemaking that is allowed in implementation, and at no point does the legislature does it appear that the legislature would have a role in coming back and kind of reining the program in, or any oversight where they come back. So with that, Madam Chair, I'd like to move the A9 amendment to Senate File 4, right?
Senator Coran moves the A9 amendment. Has been our practice. We're going to make sure the bill's author gets a copy of this amendment. We'll have the Senate author describe the amendment when she's got it. We'll check in with council and then we'll proceed. Senator Coran, would you like to describe your amendment as the pages are handing it out? And thank you, everybody, for your patience as people get the amendment before them. Senator Coran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this goes, it's a pretty straightforward, it removes the strikes on page 4, deletes line 15 and 16, and what it does is strikes the commissioner must establish a process to grant a waiver from the requirements under the subdivisions and subdivisions 10 and 11. It's really around the secondary grants documents and wanting to strike that and again remove one piece of that broad rulemaking that would then allow a further voice of the legislature at some point in the future if something were to change. Members, I urge a green vote. And Madam Chair, I request a roll call as well.
Senator Coran has requested a roll call, and we will do a roll call on the A9 amendment when we're through with the discussion about the amendment. Senate Counsel, have you anything more to add in terms of common understanding of this amendment?
Madam Chair, no. The amendment removes the authorization for the commissioner to establish a process to grant a waiver from the requirements.
Thank you. Senator Mohammed.
Chair Murphy, members, I request a no vote on this amendment. There already is a variance ability in admin rules. So I request a no vote on this amendment.
All right. Seeing no further questions, the clerk will take the roll on the A9 amendment.
Chair Murphy?
No?
Vice Chair Mitchell?
No.
Lead Anderson?
Yes.
Senator Barr?
Aye.
Senator Carlson?
No.
Senator Swazinski?
No.
Senator Drazkowski?
Aye.
Senator Fateh?
No.
Senator Gustafson?
No.
Senator Jasinski?
Aye.
Senator Coran?
Aye.
Senator Lang?
Aye.
Senator Mayquaid?
No.
Senator Morrison?
Nope.
There being 6 ayes and 8 noes, the amendment is not adopted. Members, are there further questions or amendments before us? Senator Lang?
I was waiting for the rap of the gavel, Madam Chair.
Thanks for the technical support today. I really appreciate it.
From the end. Senator Mohammed, thank you, Madam Chair. You know, we had a pretty robust discussion in the Transportation Committee just, I think, about 10 days ago. And we shot this bill full of holes, realistically, from one end to the other, a lot of big gaping holes. And we offered a bunch of amendments that I think, for the most part, would have accomplished, like I said, to all the folks in the audience, the same end result. So I guess the first question I'd like to ask is, has there been any amendments added since that Transportation Committee?
Senator Mohammed?
Chair Murphy, Senator Lang, we've taken up the House file, which actually has a lot of amendments on the data privacy, which I think answers some of the questions you had in transportation. And we've taken up 2 amendments in transportation, and we made sure that those were brought back to the bill.
Senator Lang?
And Madam Chair, can you just give us a detailed, what those data privacy, exactly what you mean? And I don't know if that may be for...
That's
Senator Mohammed?
Chair Murphy, Senator Lang, we had a discussion in judiciary, which this bill went through, and we talked about ensuring that people's data is protected when they go and get a driver's license so that they're not getting deported. And so what we ensured was that making sure that data is given to agencies who need it, except for people who enforce immigration laws unless they have a judicial warrant.
Senator Lang?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So one of again, you know, we're trying to stay within whatever our guidelines of the committee are and in the effort to do so.
Yeah.
When you talk about 171.15 subdivision 7 that you were talking about, you know, I went to the Secretary of State's website and they gave us a presentation early this year, pulled that presentation down on page 9. It says works with counties, cities, and towns in the administrative elections. That's one of the duties pushed upon the Secretary of State's office. Operate and maintain statewide voter registration system, a database of all Minnesota voters, certify voting systems, accept candidate filings for federal and state offices. They've taken $100 from me 3 different times. And then train the local election officials. And when it comes to state and local gov, I think that's one of the important parts of what we've been talking about. The bill is still restricts the Secretary of State's office, and I think when we had the testifier in the last committee that came up and testified about what it takes to vote in the state of Minnesota, what it takes to regulate that vote, this bill still does not comply with what I would consider a good faith effort in keeping those individuals voting that are legally allowed to vote. I think that's one of the biggest issues when it comes to this bill, Madam Chair, and I know that without straying too far away from what I'm talking about specifically when it comes to state and local elections and not getting into the election bill, I think this bill still is at fault with that. Can you comment on any additional efforts that you're going to take as this bill proceeds and goes, I'm assuming, to the floor? When it gets to the floor, that we don't have to continue to offer amendments that provide some sort of security, some sort of a semblance of comfort when it comes to folks that are really concerned about elections. And Madam Chair, we went down a line of questioning that not only has to do with elections, but integrity of people's background, people's driving records, to say that I still think this bill would allow somebody to get a license with a DUI on their record, with you know, any of individual issues like that, as well as maybe not having the best background. And realistically, I'm a little worried about the you know, and I know Senator Champion talked about trusting Minnesotans, and I truly intend on doing that. We just have to verify that we are doing what we say we're doing. And I guess that's realistically what I'd like to see as a commitment from you, Senator Mohammed, as this bill goes forward, to provide some of those safeguards and those I think the term guardrails was used pretty heavily in the last committee hearing. And again, all the folks in the audience aren't going to know any difference when it comes to the license that they receive. So, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lang. And just so we're clear, that this bill will go from here to finance and then likely to the floor. Senator Mohammed.
Chair Murphy, Senator Lang, thank you for the question and the comment. We had, you and I and members of our Transportation Committee had long and lengthy conversations about the bill and specifically where you're speaking to. And first and foremost, I want to say that the Secretary of State put out a statement saying that the driver's licenses for all bill will not change Minnesota election laws at all. Many people who are ineligible to vote, like green card holders or 16-year-olds, already have driver's licenses, and for that reason, driver's licenses are not used as a proof of citizenship. As far as whether these folks will use it to vote or not, the truth is when people go through really extremely hard things to get to America, when they go through war and horrific things just to get here to be safe and be a part of society, they don't come here to commit crimes. And voting as a non-citizen is a felony, which can result in deportation. And they have been clear about that. These folks just want to make sure that they take their loved ones to school, their kids to school. They want to make sure that they continue to work to take care of their families, and they're not gonna commit crimes. And those who do commit crimes, there are laws in place to ensure that they're held accountable to the full extent of the law. And so I'm committed to making sure that our laws are strong and that we are making sure that we have that we are we are taking care of our people, whether they're documented or not, because we have an obligation as lawmakers and as citizens who are neighbors to these folks to take care of them, but also to ensure that everybody in our state, that the laws that we do have are intact and are clear. And I think everybody who testified, which you were a part of that for over 5 hours, came and they made clear about the intention of what they wanted. And this bill has had robust conversations in the House, in the Senate. We've had both Republican and Democrat say. And so it's been, I'd like to say, a bipartisan say. It's had bipartisan buy-in to the best that we could do. It's headed to finance, and then it'll be hitting the floor. And if you have more questions and clarity around that, I'm more than happy to continue having conversations with you on the record and off the record.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Lang.
And I think I was trying to make a generalized statement, but I think now the question remains, and without going down the line of trusting anybody or non-trusting anybody, if a person that receives this driver's license does vote in the state of Minnesota, the bill you have in front of us today, still, if the sheriff's deputy in that county says, you know what, that person is illegal, I know they voted illegally, this bill does not allow that information to be shared with the judicial branch, does not allow that information to be shared with any law enforcement agency, I think is the wording that the bill uses. That is a problem.
Thank you. Senator
Murphy.
Mohammed.
Chair Murphy, Senator Lang, what this bill does is that it allows people to drive. As far as whether somebody goes and votes, if somebody does go and vote, they have to attest in the paper that they're signing that they're a U.S. citizen, that they're over 18 years old, that they say that they live where they say they live, and if they don't, there are laws in place to take care of that. As far as when a sheriff is driving and they pull somebody over, if they pull somebody over, then they're gonna do their job for the reasons as to why they pulled them over, whether that person's a citizen or non-citizen. I don't think sheriffs need to know that.
Thank you, Senator Mohammed. Senator Mitchell.
Hi, I would just like to, Madam Chair, add a little clarity to the voting issue. I've been an election judge in every cycle since 2018. To vote, a driver's license is one means that a person can register with, and I have literally personally registered hundreds of voters doing same-day elections. It is one means, but as mentioned here, if you are underage and hold a driver's license, you still can't register to vote. If you are on parole and hold a driver's license, you still can't register to vote. Other means of registering include a military ID, which I'm sure Senator Lang knows not every person in the military is a U.S. citizen and actually eligible to vote. You can use a student ID, which again, not every person holding a college student ID is eligible to vote and is not a citizen. So we already have similar means. We already have methods in place. There is a registration that they have to fill out. They have to certify before us that they are eligible to vote, to be doing that registration. It is a felony if they do not, and I can attest that the people committing that type of a felony, quite frankly, usually there's some sort of a mistake of information, but it is exceptionally rare. So I would like to say that I believe the election part of this discussion is non-germane to what we are doing and what we are supposed to be doing in this committee.
Okay, that's okay. No applause, no applause. So one of the things that happens with applause is that we lose a little bit of time, and I want to keep us focused on the proposal before us. So I appreciate people's feelings about this bill, but we're going to stay focused so that we can get to our vote, which is going to be in about 12 minutes, so I can stay on time as the chair. So members, I understand there might be one more amendment. Senator Jasinski, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have an amendment. So one question, Senator Mohammed, you just said that this bill has bipartisan support. So I don't remember a Republican voting for it. Which Republican has voted in favor of this?
Senator Mohammed. I think
Chair
you said there
Murphy,
was bipartisan discussion.
I apologize. That's
okay.
what I meant.
I just want to clarify that
Yes.
I have not seen one Republican vote for this. And just my final comments is I agree with the concept on public safety, but this bill in front of us has nothing to do with public safety. It is well beyond that with public safety. We proposed an amendment that did the exact bill that addressed the public safety issue with a driver's license car that said for driving privileges only. If that's the issue on public safety, which all the testifiers commented on, that was the issue, and I could vote for that bill. But this is not that. This is anything but that. Just my last comment, and so we've had a lot of deputy registers issues over the last several years, and there's discusses the training they have to go through to all these different documents that they're going to have to review. The training for this, to get our deputy registers to understand all these different documents, the odds of fraud in these things with all these different documents, and training our deputy registers and then putting them through the time to register what document was done is not obtainable, and not that I've seen in our Department of Vehicle Services. So again, I'm against this bill. If it was the bill that was authored before, I could vote for it, but this goes way beyond the needs of the public safety side, what's been all the testifiers have talked about, getting to jobs. I totally agree with that, to get jobs, but this is way beyond that. So I just want to make that comment on record. This is not addressing public safety issues. This is addressing way more issues than public safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Jasinski. Senator Drazkowski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Mohammed, so can illegal aliens get a driver's license under this bill?
Senator Mohammed, and just everybody gets to choose their words, but undocumented people might be
They're my
better.
words, Madam Chair, and illegal
understand
is
that.
breaking the law. Aliens is part of our federal law.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yes, Senator Mohammed.
Chair Murphy?
Senator Mohammed.
Jaskowski, would you like to repeat your question? I didn't hear.
Can illegal aliens get a driver's license under your bill if it's enacted into law?
Chair Murphy,
Senator Mohammed.
Chair Murphy, Senator Jaskowski, I don't think that that is a term that is in this bill, and/or no human being should be referred to as that, and so I will make that clear, especially because I'm an immigrant, and so if I didn't have its status, I don't think I would want to be called an illegal or
My wife's an
alien.
immigrant too.
Senator
appreciate it.
Drazkowski.
I appreciate
and Senator
it.
Mohammed.
This bill is so that everybody in our state, regardless of status, they can get an ID to go, a driver's license to go and drive. And, you know, I'll say this. I took on this bill for many reasons. And one of the reasons is because I was so tired of the way people were demeaning me as an immigrant and demeaning people who I knew just because they didn't have a status, as if they were less of a human being. And I think you can refer to them as whatever you want. But we do this work because we're humans and we respect people. And I want you to know some of the people who you're speaking of that way live and work in this community, and they work in this building, and you see them around, and they're in this building. And so I'll take on as many opposition against this bill. I will work in good faith. I will do whatever that needs to be done to get this bill across the finish line, because people are relying on it so that people who are citizens and non-citizens can both be safe in our roads, can go and get a job. These people take care of your loved ones. They go ahead, and during the pandemic, when nobody could work, they were the ones who were doing the jobs nobody else wanted to do. They were the ones who were doing that. So refer to them as what you want, but when you need it, when you have a need, Senator Jaskowski, they are there. You might not want them to get a license, but you can acknowledge them as human beings. And so you can speak about it however you want, but I find that very, very disrespectful.
Madam Chair, I just want to
Thank
get...
you, Senator Mohammed. Thank you, Senator Drazkowski.
Madam Chair, I
Senator
just want to get an
Drazkowski.
answer to the question. Senator Mohammed, there are thousands and thousands of immigrants in our state that are here legally that do get a driver's license under our law. They're specially marked. My question to you is, someone, and you can, apparently you don't like the word illegal or alien, I don't know which one, or maybe either one, but someone who comes to our country illegally and the first thing they do when they come here is break federal law. My question to you is, can that person, if they are here in Minnesota, get a driver's license under the law if your bill becomes law?
Thank you, Senator Drazkowski. Senator Mohammed, I know you've answered this question. I don't know if you have anything more to add.
Senator Murphy, Senator Drazkowski, what this bill does is it allows everybody in our state, whether they're here legally or not legally, it gives them the opportunity to drive.
Thank you, Senator Mohammed. Members?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator Mohammed.
Thank you, Senator Drazkowski. We have just about 5 more minutes before I want to move this bill. And so with those 5 minutes, I see Senator Swedzinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill forward. You know, we're products of our experiences. We're products of how we were raised. All of us are who we are because of our life experiences. And I lived with my grandma and grandpa till I was 12 years old. And I didn't think anything of it at the time that my grandmother never drove. And she was dependent upon my grandpa to take her everywhere that she needed to go. And I just thought that was how women I didn't know I was just a kid, right? I never thought anything of it. And when she died, my mom confided in me that she fled Europe, the terrors and the wars, to come to America, and she came through Canada unlawfully. And I never knew that as a child growing up. And had this bill been in Wisconsin at the time, would she have had a richer life? Because she wouldn't have been so dependent upon her husband to take her everywhere she needed to go. And I think with your bill, on a personal note, I think my grandmother would have been had a richer life because of that. So on a personal note, I want to thank you.
I have Senator Anderson and Senator McQuaid. Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I'm talking to what Senator Jasinski talked about regarding the rules that we had discussed earlier regarding the repealer. And from what was told by Ms. Iyer is that the rules will only be made by public safety or that commissioner. So I would like to open the door to allow more rulemaking. And so I'd like to have the A10 amendment brought to us, which would delete section 11, the repealer of those rulemaking. So it opens up the door to that, and I would like a roll call.
Senator Anderson moves the A10 amendment and has asked for a roll call, which we will do. Senator Mohammed will get the amendment. Senator Anderson, I appreciate that you are describing that this amendment that you're offering would delete section 11. I don't know if I need any further explanation from you on that or from legal counsel. Senator Mohammed.
Chair Murphy, just give me one moment.
Thanks for everybody's patience as we're distributing the amendment. For those of you who are following along, the amendment would repeal lines 9.22 and 9.23, I believe, on page 9. And if I've got that wrong, let me correct that. I'm so fortunate for Ms. James. Lines 9.25 and 9.26. Senator Mohammed.
Chair Murphy, Senator Anderson, I will ask for a no vote on the amendment, and I don't want to reduce the rulemaking for DPS, and so that's why I'm going to ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Senator Mohammed, thank you for that. Seeing no further questions, the clerk will take the roll on the A10 amendment.
Chair Murphy?
Nope.
Vice Chair Mitchell?
No.
Lead Anderson?
Yes.
Senator Barr?
Aye.
Senator Carlson?
No.
Senator Swedzinski?
No.
Senator Drazkowski?
Aye.
Senator Fateh?
No.
Senator Gustafson?
No.
Senator Jasinski?
Aye.
Senator Curran?
Aye.
Senator Lang?
Aye.
Senator May Quaid?
No.
Senator Morrison?
No.
There being 6 yeses and 8 noes, the amendment is not adopted. Senator Champion has joined us. Senator Champion, we're about ready to move this bill out of committee. But I'm really glad that you're here. I know that this is something you've worked on for years, and so if you'd like to take a couple of moments, we'd welcome your testimony.
Members, Madam Chair and members, thank you so much for hearing this bill. I was over in the LCC, so I had to chair that. But know that my heart was over here. Don't tell them over there that I didn't really want to be there. I wanted to be here. Because this is a very important issue, and I hope that all your questions have been answered, and even if they haven't, feel free to call us any other time, but I hope that we get an opportunity now to move this bill from here to the floor, and we can have robust discussion then as well. Thank you so very much, and thank you to Senator Mohammed, who I'm sure has been doing a really good job of answering all the questions, and also just being a respectful one of knowing that this work had started some time ago, and she's continuing this work, and we're continuing it together. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Champion. I really appreciate you making time to stop in. Next on my list is Senator McQuaid. Senator Drazkowski. Senator McQuaid.
Madam Chair.
If the time is now, I can go. It's not a question.
Senator McQuaid, are you wanting to speak to the bill in general? Well, then I think you should pause for a moment. Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for council. Page 5 of the bill, on line 5.12, I don't know if I've read language like this before. This makes law subversive, makes law, and that's not the right word, subversive. It makes law describe future rule and describe how future rule will operate. I don't know if, does that work?
Ms. James.
Madam Chair and members, this is using the rule and future rules as an item that is basically incorporated by reference. It is something that you can find in the statutes that we've done.
So, thanks, Ms.
Senator
James.
Drazkowski.
Thanks, Ms. James. So members, let's remember when we make rules, what happens is the legislature is delegating our authority to the executive branch. And that's what the rulemaking process is about, is it gives the executive branch the authority to write rules about specifics that we don't have specifically in law. And in order to get around the separation of powers, not get around, to comply with, if you will, the separation of powers of our Constitution that says we shall not delegate our authority as a legislature to the other branch, to another branch, we have to submit that process to administrative rulemaking, which includes judicial review. the administrative rulemaking process is subject to judicial review. And I haven't fully, Ms. James, wrapped my head around this yet, and I'd like to see the other places in statute that we have language like this, where law actually provides a condition for a future rule that hasn't been written yet. I don't know how that fits in there, but my spidey sense just says it's problematic. Members, thank you for the discussion.
Ms. James?
Madam Chair, Senator Drazkowski, and members, I will look for other sites for you. I think that this particular provision is saying, is interpreting secondary document for purposes of the rule and not making the rule law. So it's a maybe unusual construction. It does not raise to me the same level of constitutional concern as something that makes the rules law.
So Madam Chair, if I
Senator
could.
Drazkowski.
Thank you, and Ms. James. So if the rule changes a decade from now or 20 years from now and changes from what it is today and what we understand it is today as we're trying to create this reference, the meaning of this and the legislative authority around that will have been removed. And that's the part I'm finding to be problematic. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Drazkowski. Senator Lang?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So I just want to remind people we are 5 minutes past the vote. Does anybody else have an amendment that you're going to offer? All right, so then to the bill, and we're going to wrap up. And I appreciate everybody's patience with me. Thank you. Senator Lang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm kind of glad that Senator Champion came in at the end here, and I really have a question for you, Senator Champion, as this bill has progressed through the other committee, and I think has actually made a couple of stops both on judiciary and transportation, and we had a pretty good discussion on that. And the chairwoman here has given me quite a little bit of leeway to talk about elections, because that's where obviously some of our biggest concerns with this bill are. You know, I talked about the Secretary of State's office and the fact that they laid out their list of duties and responsibilities as it comes to elections and what that means for our local communities. And realistically, Senator Champion, what I'm trying to ask you is, can you give us a good reason why this should not be referred to elections when we've brought up again and again and again multiple concerns with elections? And I mean, I can't put it together why, you know, you're an experienced senator, got a lot of experience sitting behind this table. I think as a Senate in the state of Minnesota, deserves a good look at elections, a good look at how do we make this secure. Tell me why I shouldn't make the motion that we move this to elections.
Senator Champion.
Madam Chair and Senator Lang, thank you for that important question. Senator Lang, as you know, that the whole purpose of this bill is to really provide an opportunity for those who are with us, regardless of their legal status, to go through the paces in order to get a driver's license. And what that driver's license will be used for is to make certain that folks are able to drive their kids to school, they can go to work, all the things around work. It is not around elections. And in fact, we do not have anything in our law that would call for automatic registration of an individual who gets a driver's license in order to be able to register them to vote. There's been a lot of discussion about it, but there's been nothing right now as we sit here that would say that's the law of the land. It's not the law of the land. I am confident that those folks, if they raise that issue and deal with automatic registration, that they will deal with that, right? Because it will be on everyone's radar. And let me also say, I'm confident in those who would get this driver's license that they will not do anything that's wrong. They're not going to go and try to vote they are interested in being here in our wonderful country, and they're contributors to this country. They know that even if they were to get a misdemeanor or anything, that could call for deportation. They don't want to be deported. They want to be able to function as we all function. And so there's nothing here around elections. There's nothing that would spur this election question. There's been a lot of discussion about automatic voter registration and all that, but there's nothing in law that would do it. So I can give you that comfort that there's nothing that we see here that would call for it to go to elections. And let me also say, if it did, we would sit in front of elections just like we would sit in front of any committee, because we believe that this is good and sound policy that should be adopted. So thank you, Senator Lang, and I don't see anything that should require it to go to elections. I would ask that you support this important policy today. We know that we'll have an additional robust discussion on the floor, but I do believe in this policy, and I hope that you would join me.
Thank you, Senator Champion. I have Senator Jasinski, Barr, and May Quaid, and we're going to go to a vote. And Gustafson. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I respectfully want to make a comment to you as Chair. This is a major bill that's passing through with major changes in our states, and to be limited to 1 hour to discuss this and make comments, I think is a little demeaning, because I think we have a lot of discussion that we could talk about, a lot of concerns. One of my last one, again, I have a concern. So Real ID is not going to be implemented until July 1st of 2025. So when this bill goes through, we'll have about 15 to 20 months with a hole in it that will not be protecting our citizens here in Minnesota and the United States. It is a national security issue. Again, July 1st, 2025 is when the Real ID takes effect. So that's concerning. I think also all of us want to protect and support our laws, and we're giving undocumented citizens legal driver's license. We just had a bill yesterday in another committee talking about farm permits and transportation, and on those permits, on those driver's license, it specifically states for farming only, or on the back has a specific thing, and this license will have no designation. Nothing different than a standard Class D driver's license. That's my concern. Again, we are giving illegal citizens legal driver's license with no documentation on there saying that's different. And we do that to farm kids that have a 15-year-old that want to drive a farm truck so they can do that. So we're doing it for that purpose, but we're not doing it for this purpose. So I think it's a double standard that I mentioned in transportation, and I'm concerned about here as well. And again, there's a big gap when Real ID starts, and this bill, if passed as proposed, takes effect 1 October, I believe, of this year. So that's a big opening between that and July 1st of 2025, which proposes a national security risk, not only to Minnesotans, but to the nation. And I have a huge concern with that. With that, I request a roll call.
Thank you, Senator Jasinski. Senator Barr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Champion, you do know that elections meets in this room right after we're done here, and on the agenda today is automatic voter registration. So I'm not finding the comfort that you want me to find with the automatic voter registration, because that bill is moving at the same time this one is, that will register everybody 16-year-old or older, and any interactions with the government, it's very encompassing who will get registered to vote. And when there's a distinction, there's no distinction between this driver's license and eligible to vote, I'm just not finding the comfort with that. So if you want to comment on that, please.
Thank you, Senator Barr. Senator Champion.
And I'll be very brief, Madam Chair. Senator Barr, thank you for letting me know that elections meets right after this, so that means you know. So there's an opportunity for you to speak to this question. But just so that you're clear, Senator Barr, and you can also talk to those folks there, that in order for a person, even under what is the proposed legislation, in order for a person to be automatically registered to vote, they have to show the necessary documentation like a passport or anything that would show that they are a citizen. If that documentation is not shown, from my understanding, to be automatically registered to vote, then they would not be eligible in order to vote or automatically registered there. And I want to go back to this, Senator Barr. I want to go back to the fact that law enforcement supports this as well. There's a wide range of support here. And not to mention, again, I keep going back to individuals who get this license. They don't want to be deported. They are not, they don't want to run that risk because they want to be here as well. They have truly embraced themselves in this culture and community and our country. That's why we see them working and taking their kids to school and soccer and hockey and all the things that we would do. So no one, I would hope, would not want to run the risk of being separated from their family. And I do think that there's the comfort around elections, and anyone who's dealing with any election policy have already demonstrated and said that in order that they would need to provide the necessary documentation like a passport and other things before they can enroll to register to vote, and even from an automatic perspective. So thank you, Madam Chair, and brevity is the order of the day, and I'm sure that we'll have a robust discussion on the floor.
Thank you, Senator Champion. Senator McQuaid.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll just be brief. I think it's important that we talk about the large coalition that supports it, law enforcement, the chamber, our faith communities, immigrant justice groups. Oh, thank you, Senator Fateh, MPPOA, the Police Chiefs Association, all that. But I really want to just speak to the human aspect of this. These are our neighbors, our friends, our loved ones who want to drive to work, to care for our loved ones who are elderly or sick. They want to drive to the grocery store to buy food for their children. They want to drive their kids to school. And I cannot imagine the fear of driving with my 9-month-old daughter to take her to daycare, to then go to work and worry that I might get arrested and deported and someone won't be there to pick her up, or that I might be taken out of the car. It is real and it is terrorizing. And our immigration system is inhumane, it is complicated, it is cruel. We are not solving that problem in this room today. And yes, we are going to increase safety, but we will remove a traumatic fear that people are carrying with them that is not okay in this state. And we have the opportunity to do that. And it has been a long journey for this bill. Senator Champion, you know that. Senator Mohammed, you know that too. And so I'm really proud that we get to move this out of committee today, because I want people to know that we care and that we want to see this get done so that people can drive safely in this state, free from the fear of living their daily lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Madam.
No, I appreciate it again, but no applause. Thank you very much. Senator Gustafson.
Brief statement. A lot of things were said today. I just wanted to thank you. I want to thank you for speaking about this bill today. I want to thank Senator Champion for working so hard on this bill in the past, how much work you've put into this, what you've had to listen to, endure, hear people say things that aren't true. And I just want to thank the community members as well, who've spent years trying to see this bill get passed. I hope that they are feeling recognized as well. There are people who need driver's license right now. The right thing to do is to be in support of this. I am proud to support this bill, and I want to just, again, thank you for your time.
Madam Chair.
Senator Coran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so I'll make my comment brief, but in relations to the elections component to it, to the authors, you're telling us we should have a blind faith in government. And what we do is our job is to trust and verify. And so I think we agree with the driver's license, right? And Senator Jasinski talked about what we could agree on. But our job is to trust but verify. In the totality of the bill as it stands alone, you've defined processes that we believe won't allow somebody who's ineligible to be on a statewide voter registration system. But at the same time, there are multiple bills moving through the process, election bills, which will change the transparency, which gives us the comfort that we can independently verify only eligible people on the voter registration system eligible to cast a vote. And I think everybody shares that goal. We're moving further away from that transparency of what we had in 2008 to be able to get a voter status. In fact, some of the election bills move inactive voter status as deemed private data. And so we're moving further away from the comfort of the transparency in the election system that all of the automatic registrations, regardless of the direction they come in, regardless of where they come from, whether it's through this driver's license process or anybody else. So we're moving away from it. And so there's a lot of discussion, a lot of impacts on the Secretary of State, the data that they can get or can't get to do their job appropriately, especially as it is not in automatic registration, but in same-day voter registration as well. And so to not have it go to the Elections Committee, I'm shocked that the chair, who is also here, hasn't requested that. And so, Madam Chair, I think, I'm not sure what the formal procedure is, but I'd like to make a motion that this is re-referred to the Elections Committee. It needs its due diligence. In fact, it was so important that the Secretary of State, testified many times on this bill, but not in the Elections Committee as it relates to this particular topic, to bring the totality of all elections processes and proposed bills forward is the role of the Elections Committee. And to move it outside of that really doesn't meet, I think, the intent of your goals to make sure everybody is comfortable that the processes are, in totality, protect the citizens and the rights of those that have the opportunity to vote in this country and to be able to verify it. And we're moving further away from that than we are closer to transparency. And so, Madam Chair, I'm not sure what that motion is, but I would make a motion that this bill be re-referred to the Elections Committee.
Senator Mohammed, we're preparing to move your bill. Senator Curran has moved to recommend that House File 4 pass and be referred to the Committee on Elections. As I have spoken with Senator Mohammed ahead of this, I would ask members to vote against that motion. And when we vote that motion down, then we will move to send this to the Committee on Finance. Is everybody clear on the motion before us? Senator Anderson.
I would like a roll call on this.
Senator Anderson has requested a roll call. Senator Curran.
I would like to withdraw that motion and modify the your motion to re-refer the bill to its next stop. I'm not sure what that is, but to re-refer to
That's what she said.
the elections. Not as a separate.
Senator Curran, I believe that's what I said. So let me say one more time that Senator Curran is moving this bill move from this committee to the Committee on Elections. There has been a roll call. The clerk will take the roll.
Chair Murphy?
No.
Vice Chair Mitchell? Oh, sorry. Lead Anderson?
Yes.
Senator Barr?
Aye.
Senator Carlson?
No.
Senator Swedzinski?
No.
Senator Drazkowski?
Aye.
Senator Fateh?
No.
Senator Gustafson?
No.
Senator Jasinski?
Aye.
Senator Curran?
Aye.
Senator Lang?
Aye.
Senator Mayquade?
No.
Senator Morrison?
No.
There being 6 yeses and 7 noes, the motion is not adopted. And with that, I move to recommend that House File 4 pass and be referred to the Committee on Finance. All those in favor, please say aye. Oh, thank you, Senator Anderson. You're right. There was a roll call. The clerk will take the roll.
Chair Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Chair, Lead Anderson?
No.
Senator Barr?
Nope.
Senator Carlson?
Yes.
Senator Swedzinski?
Yes.
Senator Drazkowski?
No.
Senator Fateh?
Aye.
Senator Gustafson?
Aye.
Senator Jasinski?
Nope.
Senator Curran?
No.
Senator Lang?
No.
Senator Mayquade?
Aye.
Senator Morrison?
Aye.
There being 7 yeses and 6 noes, the motion is adopted. House File 4 is on its way to the Finance Committee. Thank you very much for your time. Everybody, please be quiet. And we are going to continue our work. Thank you, Senator Mohammed. There we go, and you're on your way. We have a number of people who are here to do presentations, and I'm not sure that we're going to get through them all. Everybody has been invited to come and talk for 10 minutes. The first is the Association of Minnesota Counties. Mr. Hilgert, I saw, was in the room. Thank you very much for joining us, for your patience. Welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself and proceed. And members, and for those of you, I'm going to ask everybody, please be quiet in the room as we continue our work. We've asked these organizations who do a fair amount of work before this committee to come and give an overview. Democracy is noisy and joyful. Thank you for being here.
Madam Chair, would you like me to wait for a second to do a reset, or would you like me to get started? Up to you.
You know, really, Mr. Hilgert, if you are ready to proceed, I would prefer that so we can get as much done with the time that we have.
Sure,
Please
of
proceed.
course. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Matt Hilgart. I work for the Association of Minnesota Counties. AMC is an organization that represents all of Minnesota's 87 counties. Madam Chair, I want to thank you for your intentionality of having a committee hearing today to talk to your local governments. I know that this is under your jurisdiction, but I know others on this committee have chaired their own committees on local government. And there's always been bipartisan interest in working with local governments to move Minnesota forward. So I very much appreciate that. My presentation today, I will keep to hopefully 8 or 9 minutes. It's front loaded towards the beginning slides, and I'll try to move at a rapid pace. Just a quick counties by the numbers sheet, a little county trivia for all those who are interested. It seems though most people have left the room for this. There are 87 counties, 447 commissioners. Most of those county boards are 5-member boards. There are some counties that are larger and have 7 county boards. The smallest county, Madam Chair, is your own in terms of size, and that is Ramsey County, and the largest is St. Louis County. St. Louis County is actually the largest county in the United States east of the Mississippi River, and 7th largest overall in the state. It's 3 times the size of Upper Rhode Island. Although you might not think there are a lot of commonalities, Madam Chair, between those 2 counties, your own district and St. Louis County, a significant part of your land is tax exempt. So even though there are things that not all counties see eye to eye in, there's a lot that unites us all. Total county expenditures vary greatly from $15 million a year, which is Traverse County in the southwest, to approximately $2 billion, which is the largest budget, and that is Hennepin County. Really quickly, Madam Chair and members, counties are distinct and that we operate in this quasi-gray area of both being seen as a unit of local government, but also being an administrative arm of the state. That is to say, though, that we are organized under the Dillon Rule, and I know Ms. White has spoke to this before, and basically that is you have to tell us what to do, and if it's not prescriptive, we really can't do it. General county duties, this is a very general list of typical county duties, and by no means is this meant to be exhaustive. Rather, it's meant to just illustrate the diversity and breadth of scope of what counties are involved in, both visibly and invisibly in your communities. And I say invisibly because I think counties often are seen as the social safety net in Minnesota, and so we probably are a layer of government that some Minnesotans aren't necessarily directly familiar with, but we're always there, we like to think, in case folks are in need. So very quickly, we of course administer the property tax and manage the property tax system in the state of Minnesota. We're responsible for land, deed, vital records. We run our election systems in tandem with cities and townships. We're responsible for over 80% of the correction and probationary services in the state of Minnesota. We invest and manage over 40% of the state's road and bridge infrastructure. We develop land use and water policy. Previous presenters talked about our works on workforce development boards and economic development and housing authorities. We have our public health authority. Most counties have a public health department or are involved in a joint powers. There are some cities, I believe 5, that have their own individual local public health agencies, but most of those duties are county responsibilities. Most importantly, of course, we provide, and this is probably the bigger budget area that we've seen in the last 2 decades, is that we provide a lot of work in the area of social services. So housing, food, rental, mental health, children and family well-being services. We manage solid waste and recycling services. We have several still elected officers. Counties still have a lot of legacy in having probably the most elected officers at any local unit of government. At one time, we even elected the county coroner, the engineer, the surveyor, the assessor. Now we're down to the county attorney, sheriff, and some in terms of the row officers, your auditor, treasurer, and recorder. And then I like to say also that we have these additional duties as fallback. For any baseball fans in the room, I think of counties as kind of the designated hitter, the state designated hitter in terms of when the state needs us to administer something or we don't necessarily know where it fits neatly into, we say, counties, why don't you do that? One of my favorite examples of that is indigent funeral expenses. So in the state of Minnesota, we say, hey, if there's a family or individual who can't afford to properly and respectfully bury their family members, then counties, you're going to step up and actually pay for that and help manage that. In a county like Hennepin, Senator Fate's district, it can be over $1 million of unfunded expenses that we're doing every year to provide that service that's needed, but still something that counties are stepping up to help with. Madam Chair, I took the liberty to put just a pandemic slide. I won't go through all these examples, but it's something that I think is really noteworthy because I chatted about counties being seen as an invisible arm of the state, but I think that the pandemic flipped that on its head and brought a lot of spotlight to what counties do. And aside from the significant duties that we had in the local public health arena, counties across the state were responsible for administering business relief programs, housing, rental, food support, working with nonprofits to meet our communities wherever they were at. For business relief, counties administered the largest scope of business relief in the state, not just from federal and state funds, but we administered over a couple $100 million worth of relief that kept 15,000 businesses open via grant processes. And we did them 3 times. We did them with our CARES funding, our ARP funding, and then the state turned to us, I don't know if members remember this, in 2021 and said counties were mandating, we're giving you $116 million to set up a business relief program across the state in 3 months, and we did it then. So that it was a major role that I think a lot of our community saw us. Equally so, counties are operating in the areas of homelessness and shelter supports. That was a significant role that we saw counties delving into, with some counties forming joint powers, some actually purchasing buildings or hotels themselves to try to meet this need that is, we see, getting worse throughout the state. And then the last things that I wanted to chat about is that we've seen counties also enter the space, especially in greater Minnesota, in the child care arena and the workforce development. We saw Pine County put a first of its kind, it got even national accolades, using ARP and CARE funds to actually put a first of its kind scholarship for all of its high school students to their vocational and technical school. And we saw Stevens County open up their own child care 7 or 8 pod facility in the middle of the county to try to create a strategic service for their families that had a huge need, unmet need in their community. Delving into the last part of my presentation, what is AMC? We have been around for over 100 years. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that composed, again, of all 87 counties. We like to see ourselves as the voice of county government in Minnesota, and we're kind of split up. We have a team of around 20 people, half our research, education, and training for our commissioners and county staff, and the other half our advocacy groups. Our legislative principles can be really summarized in 3 things: local control, advocating for effective, innovative public policy to meet the needs of our residents and clients, and making sure that those public policies and proposals don't disproportionately burden property taxpayers or create unfunded mandates. Madam Chair, this is really my last slide, and that is just our legislative priorities this session, and these are reflective of all of our common needs throughout the state. We actually hold an election ourselves every single year, and we break the state into 10 districts. We travel twice a year to all those districts, and we give folks ballots and ask them to vote on what's important to them. So I think we'll see some really bipartisan themes here in the areas of property tax relief, addressing acute shortages and disparities in mental health infrastructure resource. This was actually our #1 vote getter across the entire state of Minnesota. The acute needs surrounding mental health are affecting every single layer of where counties operate. Supporting county roles in probationary services, housing supports, recycling, children and family investments. And Madam Chair, we also hope to continue conversations in this committee around areas of cybersecurity, website accessibility, publication modernization standards, and also we are very hopeful for a discussion around election funding for local governments. And the last thing, Madam Chair, I'd leave this committee list is just who are we? This is our team, and we like to be seen as a resource. So even if there's a bill that maybe even disproportionately impacts counties, we are here for you. We've been around for 100 years. We're nonpartisan. Our job is to get you information, connect with county folks, and try to help you enact good policy. So thank you for the time today, and I'll be on hand for any questions later on.
Thank you very much for your presentation, for your slides. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to working for you. Up next, Mr. Mossman from the Minnesota Intercounty Association. Welcome. And as you're getting settled, we are welcoming you. Please introduce yourself. Up next will be Mr. Kruger from the Townships. Good afternoon. Welcome to the committee.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. Matt Mossman with the Minnesota Intercounty Association. I think you maybe have slides in the packet, and I'm having difficulty with my computer, so I will just get started. Plus, I want to be, as you say, invited back to dinner, so I will try and be brief. And obviously, Mr. Hilgart explained what counties do, and the Minnesota Intercounty Association was founded about 50 years ago as the Metropolitan County Association. It has still has a lot of that flavor in terms of we tend to spend some time, for sure, when the issues come up on metropolitan governance, collaboration among the metropolitan counties. For example, with regard to the Metro Housing Demonstration Project is one area, Parks and Trails, the intersection of transit and metropolitan infrastructure. But we've also expanded over the years. MICA now has a membership of 15 counties. About 35% of the residents of Minnesota live in a MICA member county. And the tendency is that they tend to be the faster growing counties in the state and the urbanized counties in the state, other than our colleagues at Hennepin and Ramsey. And so that's who MICA is. I won't spend too much time. Again, just to say the second slide here, just gives you a sense of, if you're conversing with me here up at the Capitol, I'm not making things up. We have a board of directors consisting of 2 county commissioners from each of the member counties. And I would just go back and say that our member counties include many, for those of you on this committee, Dakota County, Rice County, Chisago, Washington, in terms of the membership of this committee. But it gives you a sense of how that interacts with your Senate districts as well, but certainly St. Louis, Olmsted, Blue Earth, and other counties as well. The board of directors, the commissioners from these counties set our priorities and meet monthly to exchange information and guide advocacy. I'm just going to jump into, we perform the functions, obviously, as shared with all of our colleagues in all counties that was described by Mr. Hilgart. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the principles that guide our priorities for the session, and particularly issues that are falling into this committee. We really think about local control and protecting the ability for self-governance and for counties to work effectively and collaboratively in partnership with the state on many fronts, but also aligning funding accountability with the level of government that is setting the parameters for a program. So you hear us talk about mandates. That's a long-winded way of saying mandates. We really have a high priority on working with the state legislature, particularly in this session, to make sure that full funding is provided for programs that are administered by the counties. And transparency, open intergovernmental collaboration. Just a few things that we're working on that will come before this committee that we believe will help support local government and county efforts. One is legislation that is being sponsored, legislation related to equity investment by local governments. This is legislation carried by Senator Westland that we believe will give local governments that hold long-term assets the opportunity to invest those assets in more equity issues within safeguards that are already in statute and get a meaningful return on investment while still operating within guardrails. Local control and regulation, as has been put forth by partner agencies around the adult use cannabis legalization legislation. We have legislation that is being authored by Senator Swedzinski to repeal what we believe is the only state in the country that has a local government compensation limit that really takes away the authority of local governments to make those determinations for all of their employees. We also follow data practice and open meeting law requirements. We believe that we've learned a lot over the last couple years about how government can be both transparent and take advantage of technology and interact with the public. We would like to see some flexibility there. But also just technology in general, cybersecurity, as has been mentioned, is a significant issue for our counties, and we know that there's some federal funds flowing in that direction that we are looking forward to receiving and working with the state on. And then generally, I put on here protecting tax base is one of our top priorities. You might think of that as only the tax committee or other things, but it really crosses all jurisdictions of the legislature because the work of county government intersects with almost every committee in the legislature. And so for us, protecting tax base, again, means fully funding those functions that come through agencies. It could be probation services funding, the work that counties lead on solid waste management, recycling and human services, deputy registrar fees, general purpose aids and credits. But for this committee, it also means the conversation that we're having, and we appreciate that Senator Mann has been open to suggestions we've been bringing forward and working with her on the paid leave proposal, elections funding, and I really want to emphasize a bill that will start in this committee and other bills that might follow, and that is para pension stability. So there was a lot of work done in 2018 to shore up the stability of the pension funds and get them on a trajectory towards full actuarial funding. We want to make sure we stay on that path, particularly as we have conversations about benefit changes potentially this year. So, Madam Chair and members, I will, in the interest of time, and leave you with that. And that's our association. Many of you know me, and I look forward to working with you over the course of the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mossman, for the presentation, for your brevity and clarity, and for including your contact information on the slide so we know how to find you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Kruger. Mr. Kruger from the Townships, and up after you will be Ann Finn, who is already here. I see that. And following that will be Patricia Nauman. I see you in the back of the room. Thank you for your patience. Welcome to the committee. We're so happy you're here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Jeff Krieger. I am the Executive Director for the Minnesota Association of Townships, and thank you for your invitation to be able to come and testify today. Besides being Executive Director, I just want to give a brief little history about townships. As I've talked to other legislators, I will try to be brief. Fortunately, I talk very fast. But I'm also a township officer in Newmarket Township in Scott County, and I have been for the last 4.5 years. So I am able to see some of the front lines of what some of my members had to go through. I love this quote from Thomas Jefferson, where he says that the town meetings are the wisest invention ever devised by the wit of man for the perfect exercise of self-government. And I truly believe our motto or our tagline is grassroots government. And we really are down with the people. And so I really can go with that saying. Township government, of course, we are the oldest form of government in the U.S., of course, oldest form of government in Minnesota here. We were formed initially with the 1787 Northwest Ordinance, as well as the 1849 Minnesota Territory. What we were devised in were called survey townships. And they're 6 by 6 square mile pieces of land divided up by 36 1 by 1 square miles of land under that. If you ever notice when you fly over Minnesota, I'm sure that you're well aware, it looks like a patch quilt, the tapestry of the landscape, and that is basically remnants of the 1787 1849 ordinances back then. Township structure, and I should say, even before that, we do have 1,780 townships. We have over 9,000 officers, about 918,000 residents. Average township is about 515 people, so we are obviously relatively small. Our township structure makes us very unique. Typically, we're anywhere between 3 to 5 supervisors. And it depends on the size of the township and what they choose to do. 1 clerk, 1 treasurer. Sometimes we have deputies of both. Again, with my example, I like to go with, in Newmarket, we're the 14th largest township in the state, at about 3,700 people. We have 5 supervisors. I'm one of them. A clerk, treasurer, deputy treasurer, no other staff. And that is one thing that's very different from us and cities, is that very few of us have any staff. We do meet once a week. 70% of our budget is spent on roads. What's really unique about townships is in statute 36551 is Township Tuesday, where every township in the state, their residents meet at their town hall or whatever they designate as their town hall at that time. And we vote on the levy, and as well as various other things too. But the residents themselves have actual say. It's not my meeting at that point in time. I'm just a resident. It is the people's meeting, and they can then vote the levy that we propose up. They can raise the levy. They can lower the levy down to 0 if they choose to. They still have to pay their bills, but they can do that if they want to. But that's one thing that's very unique about us, and we really like that form. Townships are very frugal. Our revenues have raised very little, I think 1% in the last decade, as well as our expenses. Unfortunately, our expenses are increasing, as well as everybody else's. But we figure that we are very efficient and very frugal with our money that we are trusted with. One of the problems that we do have is that we have less taxing capacity. We do have an aging population, and pretty much the only taxing that we do is through property taxes. We don't have sales taxes and other revenue sources that other LGUs are able to have. Legislative priorities, main one that we have is transportation funding. I know it's not the purview of this committee, but like everybody else, we have roads that we have to maintain. We do maintain 55,500 miles of road, which is most of any LGU in the state, which is about 41% of all roads in our state, and it takes an enormous amount of money, obviously, to maintain those. And roads, of course, are vital to agriculture, school buses, emergency vehicles, local economy, and so forth. Current state funding is insufficient. The only source that we truly get from state, besides LGA, is the HUTDF, and which we get a small amount. And from that, last year, $51 million. This year, it's going to be reduced to about $47 million. So we're looking for that to be increased as well. I'm actually going to pass over this slide here for brevity. For this committee, what we're interested in is annexation reform. Many of my townships are struggling with their nearby cities and what I term as land grabs. And that is, we have cities that are annexing land, and they have a right to do so because they don't need the townships or the residents' permission to take that land. And then along with that, they can increase their coffers at the detriment of the townships, and with very little recourse that the townships have. Any recourse that we have is typically in courts, and where, again, with townships, we have very little money in our levies. Again, I'm the 14th largest township in the state, and our levy is about $1 million a year. And so we have very little bit that we want to fight with. What we believe is that landowners should have a vote. That's how it used to be pre-1992, before there was a bill put into the tax committee. And that kind of turned everything upside down and gave all the power to the cities and with nothing to the townships. And so we would like to, we do have a bill that we're drafting, and that we'd like to more or less level the playing field between townships and cities so that we do have more of a say when it comes to that. Along with that, we also like to have a more solid detachment rule. Currently, there is a detachment mechanism that's in place, but again, it costs money to be able to fight these, and also the defense of the cities with their 2040 comp plans that they have easily can defend those. And even though development may not take place for a number of years. Other items that we have for legislative priorities is PILT, payment in lieu of taxes. We do have a bill currently coming through and being heard in the tax committee at this point in time. Road turnbacks is also another issue. Again, I know not the purview of this committee, but we are having some issues in a few of our townships where we have county roads that are turning back to the townships and putting enormous strain on their resources. And we've had one township this year alone dissolve. And here too, I just want to show you the contacts for our lobby team, Steve Fensky, Granberg, Moberg, who's with me today, who are a counsel on staff. We also have Shep Harris, who is our contract lobbyist, as well as Leslie Rosendahl, who is our PR person. So any other questions, I'd be happy to take, but you can also reach me at my office as well. But thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Krieger. We really appreciate it. Senator Gustafson has a question for you, Mr. Krieger.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so close. Senator Gustafson.
I apologize.
Thank you, Chair Murphy. And I'm sorry to prolong it. It's just I have one of only 3 urban townships in Minnesota, and the annexation that you're talking about led to that White Bear Township being sort of island off, right? So for those of you who don't know my township area, there's like a chunk of White Bear Township here, followed by 2 or 3 cities, then a chunk of it here and here and here, and it gets really difficult, and it adds to all of the road costs because they don't qualify for some of the things like a gas tax, for instance. So the annexation part is really interesting, and also just wondering if there were any other forms of relief or revenue that some of these townships, especially urban townships, can take part in. We have 11,000 people that live in White Bear Township, which makes us bigger than, I keep saying us, but makes them bigger than the surrounding cities for the most part, except for White Bear Lake. But therefore they incur all the costs and they don't get the funding that cities get. So one, just if you have any other ideas on funding that they can take part in or suggestions, and then also, and I can't find it anywhere, what are the other 2 urban townships in Minnesota? If you know, I don't mean to make this a trivia thing, I just.
Mr. Krieger.
Thank you, Chair Murphy. Thank you, Senator. I don't know the answer to your question. I apologize for that. White Bear Township is an unfortunate incident that has occurred. From my understanding, they cannot form themselves into a city to be able to take advantage of LGA. Other cities would get if you're over 5,000 people in population because they are not contiguous. And my understanding, too, is that the surrounding cities have basically taken the best parts of White Bear Township, and which left them with islands. Right now, there currently isn't any additional funding, at least not that I'm aware of. One of the other concerns I know that people have talked about IIJA funding, townships do not qualify for that. And even if we did, the ability to apply for grants is very challenging for most of my townships because we do not have professional staff that can help us. And myself and my team at my association, I have 15 staff members under me and 9,000 officers, 1,780 townships. Do the math, it does not work. And but I hope I was able to at least answer a few of your questions.
Thank you, Senator Gustafson. Senator Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And the only reason that I bring this up is because you're handy and because you said that you were from Newmarket. There's something I've been made aware of in the last couple of days is the amount of growth that's happening in that area of the metro area and the number of wells that are being drilled to go down into the aquifers beneath that area and the effect that it has on some of the fens in the area. Now, that's not my area, but I am interested in, you mentioned the number of staff you have. Who looks at the water situations in that area? From what I understand, there hasn't been a water survey since 2009 on potable water. And this is something that we could be running into a major problem. Is that something that that we should unload on the counties, or is that something that the townships can push, because it's going to hurt the townships if the people who have their individual wells start to go dry?
Mr. Krieger, and I understand now why the Association of Minnesota Counties refers to themselves as a designated hitter. Thank you for that. Please.
Thank you, Chair Murphy. Thank you, Senator Carlson. To answer your question, I know this is more specific to my individual township, and actually we have a meeting tonight which will probably be on that very topic. We do rely on the DNR for their oversight in all those things. I think you're probably referring to Niagara Water Bottling Company that's coming into Elko Newmarket in our city, and there's been a lot of hoopla blow up over that, concerning that they're going to be taking so much water out of the Prairie du Chien, which is a huge aquifer. And And I don't know how much more you want me to get into depth in that particular question. The information that I've received based on that very aquifer, there are no problems with Elko New Market getting a higher DNR permit for taking more water out of there. We have much more water being extracted because of Lakeville's growth over the last 10 years than what would accompany or happen with with Niagara Water Bottling Company that's coming into play right now. There's still further information that's going to be coming out that I'm sort of not aware of myself, but we hope to be better informed yet tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
Thank you very
question.
much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Kraus, and thank you, Mr. Krieger. I'm going to invite Ann Finn to join us, and Patty Nauman. I'm going to keep this committee going until 1:45, so we can get through your presentation as well, unless that doesn't work for you. All right. Welcome to the committee, Ms. Finn. Please introduce yourself for the record and proceed when your computer is ready.
Excellent. Madam Chair and members, good afternoon. My name is Ann Finn. I represent the League of Minnesota Cities. And the League is in a statewide association representing 837 of Minnesota's 854 cities. We also represent a handful of special municipal districts and some townships. We are proud to be the collective voice of cities in Minnesota, but I want you to know that we work very well with our affiliate groups as well as the other statewide associations representing local governments. You'll see us milling around this committee and chatting with each other about what we need to collectively get done. Our smallest city, member city, is the city of Barrie, Minnesota, population 16 in Big Stone County, and of course our largest member is the city of Minneapolis. We were founded in 1913 by a special law passed by the Minnesota legislature, and initially were part of the Extension Division of the University of Minnesota. The League became an independent organization in 1974. We offer a host of services to our members, and some of those include education and training for elected and appointed officials. We consult on governance, management, human resources, and a host of other things. We have staff dedicated to legal research and assistance so that cities don't have to reinvent the wheel when they need legal advice or to hire a city attorney. They can consult the League first. And then, of course, we have legislative representation, which includes advocacy at the legislature, administration, and the federal level. We also operate an insurance trust for property casualty insurance coverage, and related loss control services are provided through that, and that's our League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust. A quick snapshot of who our cities are. 146 of them are in the metropolitan area. The remainder are in greater Minnesota. 705 of our cities have a population below 5,000. And you'll see the majority of our cities, 498, are below 1,000 in population. The League of Minnesota Cities represents a lot of city officials, primarily mayors and council members, but you'll also see us here at the Capitol with some chief appointed members of city administrations, as well as clerks, finance officers, human resources directors, engineers, police chiefs, you name it. We work collaboratively with them as well to make sure they're represented at the Capitol. One thing we want to make sure you understand we don't do is that we don't represent individual city interests. So you're not going to see us here on an individual bonding bill or on a standalone city bill. I don't think this will be a surprise for members who serve on this committee, but cities essentially are responsible for health, safety, and welfare for their communities. And so we provide services relating to public safety, water, economic development, wastewater and recycling, libraries. These are things that you'll hear us talking about when we come to visit with you in your offices or in committee. One question we often get asked is why cities are represented at the Capitol, and as you can imagine, our local elected officials are part-time. They generally have other jobs, and we are the eyes and ears for them at the legislature during the legislative session and throughout the year. The other issue is that what cities are creatures of the state, so they don't have authority that you don't give them. And so we try to represent their interests when it comes to making changes, giving new authority, or taking authority away. This is the list of issues that we consider important to cities. And again, these won't surprise you, but the foundation of our legislative agenda really is on local control and then on making sure that cities can deliver services to the best of their ability with the authority that they have. We do have a very robust policy development process, so as much as I'd like to, I'm not responsible for our policy platform. We have groups of city officials that come in throughout the fall and summer months to talk about things that are pressing, and we actually have a policy book that has about 200 different policy positions in it. That makes for some really nice late night reading. But it does cover a wide host of issues, and it allows us to respond to things that are happening in the legislative arena on behalf of our members. Our legislative priorities are very consistent with what you've heard from the other local government groups. One I would flag for you is police and fire duty disability benefits. If I haven't talked to you about this issue, I will be doing that in the next few weeks. But some of these are things that we've already talked to many of you about as we've ramped up our activities in the legislative session. This is our team. You can see that we cover a very wide variety of issues. You'll see us around the Capitol and almost every legislative committee, and this can help you identify the right person if you want to talk to someone from our team about a legislative issue. And with that, members, I just want to say thank you for your time today, and mark your calendars. City Day on the Hill is March 9th. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Finn. I think we both have to do some work on our late night reading. But we appreciate very much that you're being here. And last, and maybe the best, Patricia Nauman.
I'll be brief, Madam Chair.
Welcome to the committee. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much. And I will be brief. I know you've had a long afternoon. So thank you very much, Madam Chair and members. My name is Patricia Nauman. I'm the Executive Director of the Association of Metropolitan Municipalities. Our shortened name is Metro Cities. We say that for ease of remembering who we are amid all the acronyms that you hear at the Capitol. So Metro Cities is a membership organization that represents cities in the 7-county metropolitan area at the legislature, executive branch, and metropolitan council. And our representation of cities at the Metropolitan Council is a unique role that we play in the world of local government advocacy, and it was a key reason that the association was created back in 1974, which is roughly concurrent, or I guess a couple of years after the Met Council was created. Metro Cities does represent the collective interests of cities, so similar to what Ms. Finn just referenced with the League, we do not lobby on individuals' city bills or issues. Membership in Metro Cities is voluntary, and it does include cities of all shapes, characteristics, and sizes across the region, from the core cities all the way out to the fringe of the metropolitan area. And in totality, we represent about 99% of the region's population with our membership. Metro Cities is governed by a 19-member board of directors and has a 4-person permanent staff, 3 of whom lobby on the association's behalf. And we also do contract for outside consultant lobbyists as well to assist us in our work. Metro Cities does provide a forum also for city officials. This is actually in our bylaws, and we take it very seriously, a forum for city officials in the region to come together to share ideas and to basically problem solve together, to sort of learn about each other's needs and circumstances and to foster open communication. The vision of the association, as identified by our board of directors, is that of an economically strong and vibrant region that promotes successful communities. Metro Cities does lobby on a wide range of policies, about over 80 in all. These are decided by our members each year. They are reviewed, vetted, and debated, and then formally adopted each year. And they encompass many issues, including transportation, local government aids and credits, wastewater, redevelopment, housing, elections, local decision-making, and others. Generally, what I'll just say, Madam Chair and members, is that Metro Cities seeks to be an effective voice for metropolitan cities at the state capitol, which includes providing information for legislators on their needs, their circumstances, their challenges, and that includes supporting legislation that does work to advance and benefit those metropolitan communities, and also, of course, expressing concern or opposition to legislation that would be adverse for metropolitan cities. And as has been referenced here, local decision-making, certainly a self-governance on issues that are fundamental to city roles. We do, if you were to look through our policies, which have been sent to all of you at the beginning of the session, you would see that that's a thread that runs through our policies. And I will leave it there, Madam Chair, in the interest of brevity today. We expect you will see Metro City staff and city officials in your committee, depending on the issues of the day. So thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much for your time and for your brevity. I appreciate that. And members, we started today hearing from the Center on Rural Policy, where we learned some, not just a resource that we can go to deepen our understanding of the ways that we may solve problems, but also information that may run counter to the perceptions that we have about life in rural places. And we ended hearing from somebody talking about our metropolitan cities, and we heard from everybody in between. I often think about this committee and its broad jurisdiction. We're holding it, but the work that we have to do reaches every part of the state. It reaches people. Today we spent some time talking about freedom. We spent some time talking about justice. I'm really honored to do this work with you and grateful. With that, our meeting for today is adjourned. We'll see you on Thursday. Thank you.